Hey,
everybody.
hey, hey.
Evening.
How are you all doing? We are so glad to be here. I want to first start off by saying this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we are representing all of the lives that have been lost and all of the lives that are still here and those that are still challenged with overcoming cancer. My name is Nakia Franklin,
And I'm Vawn Gretta
and welcome to this episode of the Real and Raw,
and our talk show.
where there are no boundaries.
And no judgment.
I always do this. I always do that.
You do.
Now,
You absolutely
it was placed in my spirit that out of all of the conversations that we have been having around the world, no one, if anyone at all, is speaking of the grief that has arisen from all of the loss in the world. Now, when I say grieving, don't tune me out. I am not only speaking of COVID-19 deaths, I'm speaking of the loss of a friend who disconnected from you after years of friendship, a sibling who caused you unbearable and unthinkable pain and harm that you chose as a result to not forgive and carry that hurt with you for the past 20, 30, or even 60 years. I'm talking about the loss of a job, a career that you love so much, a business partner that you believe would stand by your side through all and everything, and that you would never walk away from one another. I'm speaking of relationships with your children or your child who left home and never returned and never had that moment to share your heart, your love, and your commitment with them, and the why of your decisions. The loss of that dream home, that vehicle, yes, even those materialistic things, because some people grieve the loss of materialistic things. We've had storms and everything. Most of all, the loss of your best friend, your life partner, sister, brother, mother, father, and even a grandparent. Some loss have even occurred after years and decades, can still be right there in your throat, your chest, and in the palm of your hand. And it keeps you from being free to love, live, and be whole in life, newly transformed and vulnerable, and open to love in all ways. Now, see, grief from the loss of the ones we know, knew, and loved, and even those we did not like very much due to COVID-19 is just one part of the big scheme of things. The effects COVID have had on a person's immune system, physical bodies, mental and physical awareness, and conditions we have yet to discover. We, just like the hospitals, are overwhelmed. The ICUs are above capacity all over the world, yet even today, more than a year later, and there are still everyday health ailments such as heart attacks and strokes and cancer, stress, migraine, headaches, depression, ulcers, Alzheimer's, gunshot wounds, vehicle accidents, and injuries that have occurred all around the world, even in our homes, that need medical attention. And it is difficult for the medical providers to meet the needs of the people.
exactly, sis. Oh my goodness. Now, you guys, realistically, we can even help one another with the fear of contracting COVID-19. The way we use to provide first aid to someone in need. The risk of us dying to save a life is now not the norm, and it brings fear to our hearts to try to save a stranger's life with CPR. We have lost medical professionals, EMTs, firefighters, law enforcement, ones who are at the front line to keep us. even even we are consciously choosing not to take precautions and the necessary steps to protect one another and ourselves from the tools rather, and resources available. So, hey, family, this is the deal. We want to share some COVID-19 statistics with you. We want to be upfront and clear that this episode is not about COVID-19. It is included in some of the conversation, but the statistical data is readily available for anyone to see and can be checked out for your own understanding and comfort. There are an estimated 219 million human beings diagnosed with the COVID-19 in the world. There has been an estimated 4.55 million people no longer with us and who have died because of this pandemic. Okay, so to break it down just a bit further, there are an estimated 40 million cases in the United States alone and over 701,000 people and that includes those who you and I both may know that have died since the first known COVID-19 related death. The top 5 states that have surpassed over 1 million deaths are California, Texas, Florida, New York, and Illinois. There have been an estimated.
Sis,
I'm sorry?
Can you tell us where you got the sources, this data from, and then let them check it out for themselves?
Why don't you tell them?
Okay, the data came from the New York Times as well as the CDC, and it's the most accurate information as of October 1st. So we want y'all to definitely go check this out for yourselves. And we want to bring in the conversation about who our guests are. Sis, would you like to share that?
Okay.
Oh, you want me to share it, sis? Because I know this is a heavy conversation tonight, right?
No, you threw me off. I was on a flow, so I'm like, I don't even know what the hell to say now. Okay, so look, who's joining us tonight is 2 doctors. They are co-therapists, doctors Scott and Jennifer Davenport, and they're here to help us all with the understanding of the stages of grief.
Yeah.
They're both degreed in psychology. They use a biblical approach to encourage healing and restoration through their Christian counseling training and practices. And the prescriptions they write are scriptural based, and they do not hand out medications. We will learn more about them in the first segment, and then you'll discover for yourself why you should choose them why we chose them to be the guests on our episode. Do you want to take over?
I love you.
I love you too.
Again, our intentions of this episode, number 20, is to cause you to take actions in your life. The lives of the ones that you love, and even someone you encounter. Be a blessing. Now, we do have returned to the stage the amazing poetess, Miss Mallory, who
right.
is beyond creative, y'all. She keeps
beyond, and you guys don't. You want to stick around for that. This poem, I know the last one we got a lot of feedback, but this one is beyond. Indeed. Beyond amazing.
So, sis, it's time to get real.
Now it's time to get real and raw. So we want to hear from you, as you know, and so do our guests. They want to hear your feedback. So take a few seconds to go to www.streamyard.com/Facebook. That will grant StreamYard access to see your comments, and we'll see them on the show, which you want. Okay, so stick around, you guys, and post questions. Share this. Share. You never know who's suffering in silence, and this is a great way for people to watch and not be seen in case they need to avoid being seen. We can understand that, right? So now start your own watch party. Text somebody and get ready to enter into the No Judgment Zone. really enjoyed the So the storm. Yeah.
continues
I
to
really
rage.
enjoyed I really enjoyed the photo shoot, though the storm.
Oh, man, this is hilarious. The storm keeps raging.
Oh, the storm keeps on raging in. Let me stop. I'm so
Okay,
sorry, y'all. I am so tired, girl. I am not lying to you. That's probably after the show party stuff. Let me get it together. Okay.
so
Hi.
look, hey, I'm like, I don't know what's going on at the moment. Anyway,
There's been
I
some
just wanted
physical stuff happening today,
it's really mind-boggling because it's getting deep. So
to
I
say
just
the
wanted
least.
to acknowledge you, and I wanted to bring up before our guest shows up and shows out. I wanted to acknowledge you for your performance on yesterday, and I'm
Oh,
bringing this forth because it was a cancer survivor related show performance that you did, and you portrayed the creator of that amazing stage play, Miss Jolie. And I would like for you to share with us a bit about what it was about, and your experience as being the lead actress in that stage play.
well, thank you, sis. I really do appreciate that. And I think it is befitting actually for the show because we are talking about the stages of grief, and oh my goodness, what else to deal with, right? But
Absolutely.
so the show was called Triumph Over Triple Negative, which was her cancer diagnosis, and well, she wrote a stage play about it. She is Dr. Jolie Rock is an opera star. She's traveled all over the world. Also jazz. She's an educator as well, and she was my vocal professor when I was at Texas Southern University. And I like to say she loved my voice back to life because she challenged me a lot and she brought out that which God had already given me, right?
This
Fine
way,
tuned it. And
absolutely.
I certainly put the work in for it. That is for darn sure. Because let's see, was that 2 years? Oh my God. I was at Texas Southern for 2 years, from 15 to 17. And I performed yeah, two, um, two recitals in four different languages both times. I do that. Well, anyway, oh my God. So, but it was great working with Rachel Dixon, who was the director, and Stephanie McNeil, who was the stage manager, and Jackie. I don't remember her last name off the top of my head. Jackie Christian and Ernest Neal. Ernest Neal was a guest on our show before when we had the Good Men, dating, sex,
Very
and relationships with good men. Yeah.
mhm.
So that was really great. And y'all, just sidebar, our guests are coming. They finish class. They teach class on Monday evenings. And so they're finishing class, and we're so honored that they're jumping from that one dynamic, which is totally pouring out everything they have, and they're going to bring it right on over. So I really do appreciate them. But anyway, just wanted you to know they will be here. But anywho, so yeah, so I sang an Italian song, which has become my favorite now, and also some hymns and Christian. Well, yeah, they were both all hymns, but some hymns take it Christian, country, gospel, but these were Christian country. But it was really an amazing show. It was amazing because well, she was very transparent on stage with her life and showed
Mhm.
what happened in the process. There were some tragedies happening in the process of her getting that diagnosis. She overcame. Obviously, she's still with us, but it was just really a blessing. It was really, really a
It was
beautiful experience.
interesting. It was interesting how we're talking about grief on tonight and the stages of grief. And she had to go through stages of grief herself. Um, there were challenges, and without sharing everything, because people, I'm sure, need to go back and watch it and have the opportunity to explore her website and the information surrounding her life. But there was grief in the challenges of her relationship with her husband, her relationship with her children, her relationship with her family, employment, and with all the busyness in life that she was engaging in. Such a phenomenal
Right.
woman, and such an amazing uh, amount of wisdom that she brought to the play. So thank you for
Oh,
sharing
and
that,
let me,
sis.
I'm sorry, I need to also mention Philip Hall, the
Yes,
goodness.
yes.
And it feels like I'm singing with, Duke Ellington or something. I know he trips out when I say that, but he's classically trained, and he also is a blues pianist and jazz. So even though he's got music in front of him, he's taking all of that and kind of blending it together. And it just makes for an incredible experience that allows me to go outside of the box. And the box is like what I hate. In classical music, you have to honor like the composers and stay to exactly what is on the paper, and I hate it. You just the interpretation is as where you just create something new every time, you understand? So it's really aggravating
Absolutely.
and hard for me. So that's why I call it the box.
Absolutely.
I
And
slipped
sis,
out of that box a little
I
bit
know,
yesterday.
oh, I know you're going to be in another play in
Oh
December,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we're
yeah.
definitely going to talk about that as well. But what I do want to bring forth while we're waiting on the Davenports is
Which they're logging
how,
on as we speak.
oh, awesome, because I was getting ready to have some discussion about grief, because we've both experienced grief in life ourselves. And everyone in the world has it some capacity at one point or another. And I don't even have to go there right now. We can definitely get ready to bring
We'll take
the
we'll get into that, I guess, at the after the show party when we get to let our hair down and just talk
yeah,
freely. So
awesome.
let me introduce to you guys doctors Scott and Jennifer Davenport. It's so
Awesome.
good to see you both.
Good to see
Hello.
you guys, man. We were rushing trying to get away from another class to get over here with you all because we figured you all were doing something exciting and dynamic. And so we just wanted to get on to what y'all going. So, I mean, y'all can keep running.
All right.
Well, no, thank you.
Thank
We
you
had
for
a
giving
chance
us
to
that
talk about
room.
a show that I was in yesterday that was dealing with a cancer survivor, and there were breast cancer rather survivors in the audience, and so we were just talking about that, and obviously there was some stages of grief that they had to go through, you know, in
Oh,
order to
yeah.
keep on pushing. You got to keep on moving, keep on pushing.
Yeah.
I'm
Absolutely.
glad y'all
So
got
we are going to
that song.
Yeah, we got it.
we, we are going to jump right into this because I know we've lost some time, but we definitely wanted to keep the topic fresh and stay relative to what it is that we're talking about on this evening. So, since you're here, I want to go ahead and have you to introduce yourselves as far as your credentials, and tell us a
Okay.
bit about who you are individually first, and then about who you are collectively. Now, we're definitely at one point or another going to have to get into the dynamics of the two of you and how you all met and intertwined, and the blessings that came out of it all. But we're definitely going to, we already have that pinned for a future episode. So, sis, make sure you note
Okay.
it. So,
Okay.
Mrs. Scott,
No,
we're
no, no.
going to have,
Thank you,
yeah.
because that's one of the things I shared with her. We're not going to go all the way into it, but it touched me so much that I actually shared a bit of it with the poetess that you're going to see her video tonight, and I just was telling her, how much I loved your story, and it just is something worth delving into, especially when it comes to relationships and marriage. But go ahead, sis.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, sis. So, Scott, we're going to start with you. Can you tell us, a bit about yourself, your education, your background, and how did you choose to come into psychology?
Okay, well, my undergrad degree is actually in accounting, and I went into accounting, and I was going to be a CPA and move up the corporate ladder and become a chief executive, chief financial officer, or something like that. But God had different ideas, so in the midst of me climbing the corporate ladder, they laid me off. And so when I got laid off,
Okay.
I sought to get back into accounting, and I couldn't. So I ended up one day praying, and I said, Lord, what do you really want me to do? And He said, what do you like doing? I said, well, I like helping people. I said, okay. He said that you need to go back to school and get some kind of certification because you like to counsel people. And so I went back to school just to get a certification in Christian counseling, which was about 12 hours of, I think it was like 12 hours of counseling in, psychology and biblical studies. And then when working in that, my dean came to me. He says, "Hey, if you get 30 hours, you already got 12. If you get 18 more hours, you can have a master's degree in psychology and Christian counseling." I said, "Oh, I can." I said, so I went and did that. But when I took the first class I've taken, which was a Christian counseling training class, the professor, he had, he started teaching the class. And he was so enamored at my knowledge of the Bible that after about mid semester in the class, he had me up teaching the class. I said, man, I'm not a teacher, but he had me teaching the class. And so the next semester, he had me to teach the class again. And when I got my master's degree, at the end of my master's, they said, well, I tell you what, if you will come back and teach 2 subject matters, and you take some classes, we'll give you credit towards a PhD. So I went to school to get a certification in Christian counseling, and I ended up getting a PhD. I had to pay no money for the PhD because I became a professor on staff, and I taught classes, and I took some classes, and I ended up with a PhD in psychology, counseling, and theology. And so that's what my credentials are presently.
Mm.
Oh my
Wow.
Lord, that is a blessing. That was I don't even remember getting all that meat when we talked to you beforehand. All right then. Woo! I'm like, okay, we'll pray for it then. Okay, Miss Jennifer, can you
Yeah.
share with us about yourself, why you chose to become a counselor, a psychologist as well,
Okay.
and give us some meat, give us some of that love about who you are, because he laid it on thick.
Well, I come from a different road that I travel. I come from a household of 9 of us in the household, so learning all of the personalities and all of the how they responded to challenges and all of that, I kind of studied. I didn't really know what I was doing at an early age, but I began to that's that is where my basis of counseling came from. So I began to go to school. I started out in human service because I was excited that I was going to be servicing humans. So so ended
Wow.
up going through the process of learning through the classes, that counseling was one of my niche. I was able to communicate with people, talk to them about their problems, because people were always drawn to me. Starting out in that house, it made it, in that family, it made it easier for me to communicate with people because I had 7 sisters and 2 brothers. So, learning all of their personalities helped me along the way in how to, communicate and relate to people on the outside. So as I was going to college, I started out, dealing with young women and their children, their babies, homelessness, and all of that. So my background, goes with, come along with the skills of abuse, trauma, and all of that. So I got more intrigued into wanted to do more of that. So as I was going to APU, Alaska Pacific University, to get my master's degree in counseling, the Lord told me, hey, I don't want you to go that route, right? Because in secular counseling, secular counseling has its benefits. But getting to the root of the problem was what I was discovering, that people wasn't really getting healed in the secular counseling. So as I continued on with my education. As I got here in Houston, I was in Alaska first, but when I got here in Houston, God directed my steps, and He ordered my steps as I was going along the way, to pursue more education in the Christian aspect. One of the members of my church, she said, "I want you to try this class, this training class, to see if this is where God, want to lead you. Just look into what it would be like." So as I was going to the class, I did not know it was going to be this brother right here. So I ended up getting my certification into that and continuing my education to become a doctor as well as we got that. And that's how we met and how we hooked up at that point. But God did the rest. And it grew from there. Me wanted to, and still growing. We grow all the time. I'm excited about learning what God has for me and for what He's invested inside of me so that I can help others find out what they need to do and how to be healed and carry on. So that's my journey.
That is so powerful. And
Can I get her to say just one last thing, sis? And I do apologize for cutting you off because I know she's a master at transition. She really is. She's a master at transition, but I just can't let you finish, Jennifer, without saying a pivotal thing you asked God to help you do for Scott, right? You prayed to be something for him, right? What was that?
I prayed and asked God for what kind of help He wanted me to be to Dr. Scott. So in that, I had to find out what kind of help he needed. When the Lord led me to that particular training that night after we, connected and all the other stuff in between that, as I was leaving that night, the Lord told me to help him. And I was like, God, what does that look like? What does that look like to you? So He began to reveal what that looked like to him, to him and to me. So I started, helping him, and I shared that with him. God told me to help him. And we started then connecting and traveling and going, doing trainings and stuff like that. So that's how.
Thank you. I just wanted to bring that out. I'm going to get into that in the after the party. I'm not going to get into that right now, but I just wanted you to make sure you put that out there. And I know God is going to take that and do what it's supposed to do. Go ahead, sis. Thank you, Jennifer. I appreciate it.
So I just wanted to say, this allows the world to see how your focus and your why and your purpose is not about the economic gain. It's not about your credentials. It's not about who you are ultimately. It's about who God is for you and in your lives, and how you're willing to move self aside to put the work of God first, and to take care of His people and help people heal, in a more spiritual and biblical base versus throwing medication down people's throat, which is the common thing, the common practice in the medical field all over the world. It's not every day that we have Christian counselors. I've met with Christian counselors before, such as yourselves, to where all they did was give you biblical homework, and you had to fulfill all that, and it made a difference far greater than just packing the medication into a person and covering up what it is that needed to be dealt with. So we will talk to you more about all of this as well as some other things. And I just want to preface that both of you, Scott and Jennifer, have dealt with grief yourselves, so you fully understand what it's like to go through the different stages of grief. And we want to definitely, with the amount of time that we have left, hit on the different stages of grief and have some detailed conversations with you. So, Vawn, Gretta, I'll need you to go ahead and step in and take over this roller coaster ride of life.
I'm just so lucky. Okay. No, I mean, really, we about to get into it, y'all. Okay, so first, I don't want to micromanage the situation because I want you guys to feel comfortable. You have a great flow. You know who's going to answer what, or you may both touch on the same question. That's fine. Okay. But first, if you guys can explain what grief is and some of the various types of grief that we all can encounter.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, grief is an emotion. It is strictly an emotion. Now, how we express our grief, which is an emotion, how we express that is a choice. But grief is an emotion, and our emotions come from how we think. In other words, you don't just have an emotion of grief. We all go through an experience. What you tell yourself about the experience will produce the grief. And so since grief is an emotion, and emotions are produced by what we think, then the onset of grief comes from how we process, and here's a word, how we process a loss. We all experience loss, so grief is associated with a loss. And so you can have a loss of a job, you could lose, your home can be foreclosed on, your car can get repossessed, you could transfer from Houston to Dallas. Your best friend could move from, in your neighborhood, or you could move across town. You could lose your favorite purse, pair of shoes, or wallet. Anytime you have a loss, you have a grief. What most people don't understand in working through grief is when you have a loss, until you can identify what you lost, you will always grieve. Most people don't know how to identify what they lost. So if you ask them, what did you lose? They will say, I lost my mother. I said, okay, but what did your mother provide that you lost? What do you mean? I'm grieving because I lost my mother. I said, no, what was the benefits that you got? And one of the grief stages is identifying the benefit. Well, I lost someone I could talk to about anything. Oh, okay. So you lost someone that you communicate. And so what we do, the way we help people get in touch with, we say, hey, if they foreclose on your home, what did you lose? And they said, well, I lost my house. I said, but what did you lose? What did the house provide? Oh, it provided me a place to stay. I said, so you lost a place to stay. What happens if they repo your car? Well, I lost my car. No, you lost transportation. So when you can identify what you lost, it's easy to replace it. It's harder when it's emotional attached. So, if you lose a person, you have to identify what that person provide. Sometimes they say, you know what, it was somebody I could just hang out with. Or it was someone, people can even grieve when someone dies and they said, I was used to taking care of them and now they're not here for me to take care of. So I'm grieving the inability to take care of someone. I experienced that with my wife after 5 years prior to Jennifer. That's my wife passed back in 2019. But one of the things where I was going through the grief process, I said, Lord, it's something else that I'm grieving and I can't figure out what it is. And I kept thinking about it. I said, oh man, every night when I come home and every day at lunch, I would come home and take care of her. And so after she passed, I'd come home at lunchtime, or I'd come home at night, or I'd come home at weekends, and I'd have to take care of her. And I didn't realize I was grieving that. But when I realized that's what I was grieving, then I understood when Jennifer came in, when she came after 2 weeks of our class, because God told her to go and he says, tell him to don't miss a step. And that's what I was doing, because my wife passed on a Sunday. I taught a Christian counseling training class on a Monday for 2 hours. I taught Bible study Wednesday night. And then Saturday after her funeral, I went and I did a class on relationship for Valentine's Church, dealing with relationship for married and single couples. So I just kept doing what I was doing because I had to provide for someone. So I saw what I lost, and I saw how God was helping me by keeping me to doing that, because most people kept saying, you need to take some time off. But she came and affirmed what I was already doing and said, God said, don't miss a step. Keep doing what you're doing. I said, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to keep doing it. So you have to identify what you lose. If you don't identify what you lose, then you're grieving and you don't know what you're grieving for. And the pain of grief lasts too long.
Yeah.
And that's interesting you could say that. Go ahead, Jennifer. I'm sorry.
And like he was saying, you have to identify what it is that you lost. And a lot of times we don't know what it would be that we lost until we start talking about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the stage of grief is shock. You get into that to where you are numb. You are, we call the numbness the anesthesia, where you can't feel anything. You can't feel nothing. You're shocked. The questions are, I can't believe this is happening. But for me, when my mom passed away when I was 19, I had to figure out what was I crying that I missed, from her. And the conversations that we had, yes, she would always call me to her bedside, or at night before I go to school, before, go to the bed, she want me to come and talk to her so she can talk to me about her troubles and, just express herself. So when she passed, I was like, what is it that I'm crying for? I miss her. I missed the conversations that we had because I was one that she could call and was there for her to just communicate with her and to talk about all her troubles. And I would pray with her and I would, read the word to her and encourage her, so that she wouldn't feel, so alone. So,
well, Jennifer, let me ask you this. Or Scott, why do you think people close in, so to speak, and they don't talk about it? I'm gonna let you say it. Why do you think they close in and just really don't want to talk? Why is that part so hard?
Well, like Jennifer said, the first stage of the grief process is the shock denial stage. Shock says, I can't believe this has happened. Denial is, this has not happened. I know it hadn't happened.
Yeah.
But that's the anesthesia stage. That's where you get the painkiller before the surgery. And so most people close in because they're saying, I don't want to deal with the pain. And so they stay in the shock stage. As long as I'm in the shock stage, I don't feel no pain. I don't want to talk about it. I'm numb. I went to the doctor to get my tooth worked on. He gave me the anesthesia. I don't feel no pain. They're hurting, but they don't feel it because they're in the numbness stage, the anesthesia. But as well as we do, painkillers wear off.
Right.
So they get out of the anesthesia and they start feeling the pain. When they start feeling the pain, a lot of people think, I can't handle this pain. And they go back into the shock stage. They shut back down because they're saying, just give me a painkiller. You don't have to give me anesthesia. I don't want a shot. But they said, hey, I want a Tylenol 10 because 5 ain't
So what is the second stage of grief then?
pain.
The pain. So then talking about it and identifying it helps them recognize the pain.
Because see, each stage, in order to come out of shock, you have to face the pain. You have to say, you know what? Yes, this does hurt. But then I have to identify, because remember, pain is that feeling, but it's coming from a thought. So whenever, as you go through this grief process, you have to identify the feeling, I'm hurting. What am I thinking that caused me the pain? It may be, I can never see her again. And that hurts me. But if they don't ever acknowledge that, they're just still grieving and crying. But on the inside, they're knowing it. But if you don't acknowledge it, here's the key. When you don't cast your care on him, he can't care for you. So to sit there and acknowledge, no, it's not hurting. They're in denial and they go back into the pain stage. God wants them to come to him and say, Lord, it hurts. I can't handle this pain. And I can't handle this pain. And I'm thinking what? I'm thinking that, Lord, that there's nobody here for me now. And that's when as a therapist or a counselor or a messenger can say what? But God says, I will never leave you or I will never forsake you. And whatever you need, I will supply all your need. And so that when they start acknowledging the area of the stages of grief that they're in, when they are acknowledged and don't deny it, they get healed from God. If they don't, then they are trying to handle it on their own. They're not casting their care on him, so he can't take care of them.
Oh my goodness. And then what does that bring us then to this third stage of grief?
The third stage, yeah, because when the pain gets great, you can go into the third stage, which is what? Fear.
Fear.
I don't think I can. I'm afraid that I can't handle this pain. So the natural transition is from pain is to what? Fear. Fear of what? The pain overwhelming me. Now, if I'm afraid that I can't handle the pain, then I might want to go right back into stage one, which is the shock again, and get into, and I get into denial. You know what? I'm not afraid. I'm okay. I'm in denial again. I'm right back taking pain pills again. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to get addicted to the painkiller. And I can get stuck.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
What I mean is, if I keep going back into denial and saying this don't bother me, that's a painkiller.
So you have to keep acknowledging it every time it comes up.
You have to keep acknowledging it and allowing it to come up, because the more you acknowledge it, you take the power away. Right. See, when you suppress a painful thought, you empower the pain and the thought. But when you express it, you take the power away. So if I suppress a thought 5 times a day, it's 5 times stronger than what it was when I started my day.
You better speak.
Absolutely. That's good. That's a good word, because I think, and we're about to go into the next one, because I'm trying to move it along and not get, I just feel a part 2 coming. But the problem is I think that especially people who are considered strong, they try to tell themselves, I have to get through this. I have to move on. I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be there. Oh, I should be over this by now. Oh, I should be here. And, and I guess, and I'm hearing that is not the same place to be. You acknowledge that in and of itself is a part of the fear then, because you're afraid that you should be moving on. And then so you pull your own self right back, and you don't even realize you're in this little cycle.
Right.
I want to acknowledge the fact that this is not just in losing a human being or a person. This is inclusive of losing a job. This is inclusive of losing that automobile or that home or that child. It's inclusive of starting a business and not being where you want to be in the business, or not being as successful as you feel like you should be in life at a particular point, or you're not married yet, or you are married. This is across the board in every area and every aspect of your life.
Every bit of loss.
Just one area, and it's not just focused, or it doesn't have, it's not in a box.
Yeah,
right. Everything in life. So I just want to acknowledge that, so we can be clear. This conversation is for anybody and everyone, not just someone who's grieving the loss of a human being.
Exactly.
Right.
But
so then.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go. Who's going to talk? I didn't want to cut you off if you're feeling something. Please go.
So, going to, listening to, if you're suppressing all of these emotions and you're not expressing them, the next one is anger. You're suppressing it. Anger can come out in all kinds of faceted ways when you're going through this process.
Yes, Lord.
You expose. Some people run. Some people yell. Some people hit the walls. Some people want to hurt the person that actually, hurt, if it was an accident or anything, that if their loved one was in an accident, if the person died in a professional hospital, they may want to hurt the doctor because they didn't save them, and or a family member, or they want to do harm to themselves, or they get mad and angry at God and others. Right. So, it's very helpful, it's productive if you express all of your emotions from the front end, so that when anger comes out, you're angry, you can channel your anger to a healthy place.
Now, how is that even possible, to channel your anger to a healthy place when, say, you are mad at God? Because it makes sense to be mad at a physician, right? Or mad at the person who was driving, or mad at your boss I'm trying to come up with all these different scenarios. But when you mad at a being who you thought should protect you, for instance,
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
The key is it's okay. People have to know it's okay to be angry with God. He doesn't fall off his throne because
Right.
you're angry. As a matter of fact, he says, I'm glad. Bring your anger to me and tell me how angry you are with me. But here's the challenge. When you're going through pain and God's allowing it, God is using the pain to promote us with. When you go to him in anger and say, Lord, I can't believe you allowed this to happen. This is hurting. This is this, this is that. Here's what most people don't do. In a painful situation, in a bad situation, if you go to God and tell him how angry you are because of what has happened, he will show you in the greatest of pain that you're dealing with, he's going to show you some good in it. Now, if you can't see good in your pain, it will always be painful. But God will always show you how in the midst of what you're going through, he's going to show you good in it. And see, a lot of people like to quote Romans 8:28, and we know that God works all things for good to those who love him.
They really like it.
But he can't work it for your good until he can show you the good in it. So God said, if I can show you the good, I will work it for your good. But if you say, Lord, I can't see nothing good out of this, it will always be a bad experience and it will always dominate you. So when you're angry with God, all he's going to do is show you how I'm going to take the death of your wife, Scott, of 45 years, and I'm going to take your ministry to another level. I'm going to connect you with an angel from heaven. And she has been waiting on a king to come and be her covering. And y'all going to come together. Y'all going to be sitting on a show called Real on a Monday night. And you're going to be able to visit. And I said, well, go ahead on, Jesus. Both look at our pain and realize that God never wastes your pain. He's going to use it to promote you with a gain. So we say that saying, no pain, no gain. But we don't want the pain. We just want the gain. But he has to show us why he allowed it and show us the good in it. So then the good can come out of it. But if you can't see good in it, then you get mad with God. You're still mad with God the rest of your life. Clients coming off is mad with God. When we get through showing them what God did through that, they say, whoa, oh man, now I see why God, they just don't look for the good.
Yes.
So I guess you can't look for the good if it's, because some things are seriously horrifying, like rape, for instance. I know a young lady who was delivering a baby and her husband left her, was packing his stuff out during the delivery. I mean, that's painful. And it's hard to find the good in something like that.
That's why you have to go to God, because he's the only one who can show you good in a situation like that. And he will use that experience and show you his love and his grace, because God says, hey, I use the pain to bring you to me. So I can show you that I'm an all-sufficient God. And no matter how painful an experience you go through, it can't be more painful than me watching my son
down the cross. Seriously suffer.
Yeah. So
where are we at then with the fifth stage? Okay, because there are 5 stages, right? Am I right?
I have a question. Before you go there,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So when you are experiencing those moments where you're angry with God, where you vent out, where you release in all of your emotions and your feelings towards that experience in that situation, and even possibly blaming God, right? Because it happens as you shared. Sure. How do you get through and overcome the brokenness and the grief that you feel as a result of lashing out to God in your actions toward God? Because that is not necessarily what people do, right? That is a common thing. So how do you, because it's important to forgive, right? And we have to forgive ourselves, and we have to, God can't forgive you if you're not willing to forgive yourself through your situation or your errors or your whatever, right? Or just your experience. So can you speak on that?
Yeah, what you're doing, it's kind of like being upset with a friend or being upset with someone that hurt you real bad. And you holding on to that pain of unforgiveness. But why? You said, I'm holding on to it because I want to let them know how bad they hurt me. I want to get this off my chest. I want to vent. And then when you get it off your chest, you say, ooh, I feel better. Now, what has happened? I've released all that I was holding on to. But when we go to God and we are expressing, what we're doing is what? We are venting and getting it off our chest. And when I'm getting it off of my chest and I'm sharing to God, God says, what I see that is you're casting your care. When you're telling God how angry you are with him, you're casting that on him. Then God says, hey, now I can care for you. And God will bring peace and joy and strength spiritually into that space where you are. And then you'll experience, and once you start experiencing that, then that's where the healing comes from. It's not us trying to heal ourselves. It's us following the principle. Cast my care on him, then he can care for me. And you don't care how God wants us to be real. Religion teaches us, man, you can't say all that to God.
That's right about it.
Yeah, you can go in there and say, look, God, I want to go in there and slap the living blah, 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 out that person. And you know what? And this and this and this and this. But I'm telling you all this, Lord. And God said, okay, tell me, what else you want to do? And you can say all that stuff to God. But when you get it all out, then you say, Lord, I don't want to do that now. He said, I know it, but I needed you to get it out. Most people think expressing it is the bad thing. Mm-mm. The worst thing you can do when you're hurting is to hold it in. Because
I just want that to be resounded. The worst thing you can do is hold it in. Yeah. Why is that the worst thing you can do?
Yeah, because what you're doing is you said, if I'm holding in pain and I'm mad at somebody else, who's feeling the pain? I am. I'm hurting myself. And one writer, one minister said, it's like you drinking poison and hoping the other person die. Yeah, right. They're not dying, but I'm poisoning myself with what? Unforgiveness and bitterness and resentment and anger and rage. And that person going on about their business.
And that's a total iniquity. And not to be like super spiritual on anybody, but the word does say clearly that if we regard iniquity in our heart, God won't hear us.
And that's a perversion.
Mm-hmm. It is.
It affects you also physically.
Yeah.
You get sick. You have all of these unhealthy issues going on in the side of your body. You can form cancer, all of these diabetes, all of the high blood pressure, stress, all those things, because you're holding it in and you're not releasing it and getting it out, because it turns into that negative energy turn into a toxin that causes some chemicals in your body to get out of sorts. And that's why you have a lot of people that are not, they have unforgiveness in their hearts and everything. And it weighs heavy on them and they're not able to release and express their stresses. And it makes it very unhealthy for their body. They can't walk, or, sometimes they can't talk. They can't think. Their mind is just gone.
And does that then, so then what is this, the fifth stage of grieving?
Well, watch this. If I don't process my pain.
Yeah.
And I don't process effectively my fear. I internalize it. I'm holding it in. I'm trying to get past this. I should be over this. I don't process my anger. I'm not angry. I'm not going to let the anger bother me. Mm-hmm. Internalized emotions will always lead to depression. So the next stage is depression. If I'm not handling fear, pain, and anger effectively, I'm harboring it. It's going to weigh me down. The word depressed is just that I feel weighed down. I'm heavy because what? I'm carrying all of this emotional baggage and I have not released it. Now I'm going to become depressed. And Proverbs 18:14 says, anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word makes it glad. So now watch this. God is so awesome. The word in that scripture says anxiety in the heart of man. In the King James, it says causes it to stoop. In the New King James, it says causes depression. It's only used 2 times in Hebrew for the word depression or stoop. But that word is used 26 times in the Hebrew for the word worship. So it actually says anxiety in the heart of man is designed to cause you to worship or to bow or to become prostrate or low. So God says, when you're not handling your fear, your pain, and your anger well, just come before me and worship. Because when you worship before me, you are being brought low. Mm-hmm. And worshiping before God, he will always give you a good word. And that good word becomes the antidepressant. So he says, anxiety in the heart of man causes depression, but a good word is a what? Antidepressant, and it lifts you back up. So when you're not handling it well, it's okay if you don't handle the first 4 stages. Just go before God and say, Lord, I can't handle this. This is more than me. I'm yielding myself to you. If you don't step in, I'm not going to make it. And I'm just worshiping you as the God of all grace and mercy. And you start just worshiping and loving and praising in God. When God says, then I'm going to lift that, and he will always give you a word when you're in his presence worshiping. And you're
Sure.
and that word will lift your spirit up. And if you act on it, you walk in freedom. So at any one of those stages, God doesn't care, because he already knows what he ultimately going to do is bring you on your face before him.
You know what? This conversation is so powerful. How many more stages we have? It is 9:52.
No.
So it's only
We got
three more, but
This is so good. And we haven't even played Mallory's video yet.
No, we're gonna play it, but I wanted to let them get those at least say the stages out so people know.
I'm just saying, this is like real. This is so powerful, and I'm thankful for this entire conversation. And I pray.
So
that
Jennifer, do you want to tell us the rest of the stages? So 5 is depression.
Okay, and the next one is total acceptance.
Total acceptance.
Yeah.
You know, I no longer have the benefits, but it's reality.
Okay.
I'm accepting it. And the next one is proper adjustment. I have learned to live without the benefits of this. The person is gone. Now I can make proper adjustment so I can move on. And the last stage is living again.
Wow.
Giving unconditionally and sacrificially in the life of others. You begin to give part of yourself, sharing your story, sharing what's going on with you, how you came through it. You begin to live again and to reach out to others.
So this is what I want to say then, because I know that, there are 2 things going on in my head. One, I'm not going to keep you guys past the time we wanted you to be here, because I know you came from one class from teaching and pouring out all day. And I'm one that is called an encourager, and I know how it feels to just pour out all day, and you got to figure out how to get it back into you. So I don't want to extract more than what I promised. So, ladies and gentlemen, so we didn't really get into the conversation with the 6, 7, and 8, the total acceptance, proper adjustments, and 8, living again. That just knowing living again should really, and I hope, put hope in your heart for those of you who are joining and listening, and will join and listening after the live version. I don't know, my spirit leaped to hear living again, because I know what it feels like to get to that. So listen, we have their thank you for correcting me, Scott. Their website right there. That is a great excuse for you to get in touch with them so that you can hear more about 6, 7, and 8 and all the rest. So I'm going to play Mallory's piece right now. And then when we come back, I know Nakia is going to lead you 2 guys into some final thoughts that you want to leave with our viewers with. I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You guys, Mallory is an amazing poetess who has been through all these stages. So she specifically wrote this poem just for this particular show. Please enjoy.
Awesome.
Hey, Real and Raw family, my name is Mallory. I am a poet, blogger, and soon-to-be author. You are about to watch one of my videos called Pain, Hurt, and Love. It is about how sometimes we go through brutal tragedies in life and we experience pain and hurt, but in a way we get to learn how to heal and experience God's love for us. So I hope it blesses you and I hope it touches you. And if you'd like to hear more, then there will be a link below. And thank you so much.
I remember the day I felt all 3: pain, hurt, and love. Life can be brutal. I was told I needed to go see a therapist. I sat on her couch and she asked me questions. My heart and mind were at war because emotions were real. She asked me how I felt about pain. I knew that word. I described how I was addicted to pain and had no fear of it. It was my comfort zone, and I understood pain. The feeling where you can't breathe sometimes, whether it was emotional or physical. Pain described me. I saw it in my eyes looking in the mirror. I was broken. I was a slave to pain because I didn't know how to escape. That day on that couch, I didn't get honest. I didn't trust easy. It wasn't her. It was me, because I had been hurt. I knew how to hurt and be hurt. It was my war zone. I would hurt you before you had the chance to hurt me. My words or my actions were my weapons, because we all know hurt people hurt people. I never once thought I could ever heal. That meant digging deeper to this word called love. I always ran from love because I was scared. I understood bad love, not pure like God's. I had a misunderstanding with God. I wanted my way. I had the perfect prince in mind, and he rejected me. I felt like the woman at the well. I felt her pain and her hurt. The rejection of just wanting to be loved by the one you want or thought. It never made sense to me why that broke my heart. I cried over a man who didn't understand me, but God had a plan all along. But I tried my way again and failed. I gained more pain and hurt. I prayed, make him change. And well, it doesn't work that way. Even if I walked down the aisle and begged, my way never worked because I wasn't patient. I rushed. I forced. I never knew the beauty of the word love, because love is patient. It's kind. It's pure. It's selfless. I never knew I had to face my pain to heal my hurt, that I could one day find the one my soul longs for and needs. So I stayed single for a while and faced my battles to heal. I broke my addiction with pain, and I learned not to hurt people. I learned to show kindness and pray. I took a break from searching for the wrong kind of love and fell in love with God. I never imagined who He would bring into my life one day. I just kept being patient and praying. Then one day, I met my best friend who understands me, who when I look into his eyes, I'm safe. My heart misses when he's not around, and his voice calms my nerves. Who when I thought I was damaged goods, told me I was beautiful. Who reminded me of how he sees me. I never imagined God's way on love, because it's worth it. It's an answered prayer when He holds my hand. Because if I would have never gone through the pain and hurt, I would not have the love I have for this man today. So pain, hurt, and love, today I see life as beautiful.
Lovely.
That was absolutely
Amazing, right?
amazing.
Yes.
It was this.
I hope that you all took that in and had the pleasure of understanding that this young lady is powerful. And take a moment to go back when you have an opportunity to just revisit her entire piece, where you can just really sit
It'll
with
be
it.
on YouTube and on Facebook, the Facebook page, just so you can do what she's saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I know we want to definitely go ahead and close out. Vawn and I are going to share our final thoughts on the after the show after party, but we want to get final thoughts from both you and Scott, Jennifer, and have a call to action. We believe in having a call to action with every episode. This is episode number 20, so it is no different. And this has been very powerful. And I just want to say thank you well in advance, because we know that all that you have shared will be help begin the process of healing in the lives of so many people. So we honor you and we appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. So Scott and Jennifer, would you like to leave us with some final thoughts and how people can get in contact with you and a call to action?
You want to go first? Okay. Well, I want to say, add this, that, I appreciate you guys for having us on. We're so thankful for this opportunity. But I want to leave with all of the listeners, the viewers. Forgiveness is a necessary piece for your freedom. And I want to encourage you to go back and find out what it is that you were holding on to, resentment, whatever, and free yourself. And allow yourself to forgive from whatever past pain, hurt that someone caused you. And grief, going through grief, the stages, they all don't go in the same order. They are in different stages. You may go from one and end up in another, and you end up in the last stage living again. But just take your time and grieve properly, but also making sure that you have someone that is around you that you can talk to, you can express yourself freely, so that they can be there to be your support. Don't isolate yourself. Don't get along and think you can handle it by yourself. Reach out so that you can receive the help that you can get counseling. You can find a good friend, a best friend, or someone that can help you and understand who you are, so they can help you walk through this.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Scott, anything from you?
I just want to share this real quick when she mentioned forgiveness. Forgiveness is also a loss. Most people don't think when they forgive, they are losing. When you forgive somebody, you are losing because you're giving up the right to what you are holding on to the unforgiveness for. So you say, when I forgive, you are going to go through grief. So you have to grieve the loss, because you say, I wanted them to hurt, but you know what? I'm going to forgive them. Now you've given up the possibility of experiencing the fact that they get hurt. And most people, when they forgive, don't even realize that they are going through grief. And so it's hard for people, even after they've forgiven, to walk in the forgiveness, because they're grieving and they don't even realize, I did have a loss. I lost what I was holding on to unforgiveness for. And so if you have forgiven someone in your past, mama, daddy, sister, brother, aunt, uncle, preacher, whoever, if you've forgiven somebody and you hadn't grieved the loss, then go back and look at the person and say, what did I give up when I forgave them? Did I give up the right to retaliate? Did I give up the right to hurt them? Whatever I gave up is a loss. When you do that, then you will experience freedom. You will experience a lot of mental and emotional healing. And as Jennifer said earlier, it will also bring about healing in your physical body. And it will enable you to connect in the next relationship in a healthy way. Because if you don't, even if you've forgiven, you will go into a new relationship trying to get from the other person that you go into a relationship with what you forgave the first person for, and you'll still damage your relationship. So God says we forgive others because he has forgiven us. And I'll leave you guys with that and tell you that, hey, now, if you guys are dealing with something and you really say, I'm having a hard time getting to it, then give us a call. You can go online to bnscounseling.org, and our phone number's on there. Or you can click on the appointment schedule, and it'll take you to our calendar. You can book an appointment. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're going through. Jen and Scott will get you through it.
All right, baby. I believe in
the real deal.
Closing this episode out on tonight.
It's the real deal. It's the real deal.
And those who
Real deal.
start today. So this has been the Real and Raw Talk Show with Nakia Franklin
and Vawn, Gretta. And please remember to refresh your Facebook and YouTube. We're not going to start at 10:15. We'll start at 10:20. Go ahead. Just so you know, so we can do that.
At 10:20 p.m. Vawn, Gretta, and I are going to revisit this conversation on another level where we let our hair down and
absolutely.
And Scott and Jennifer, we have to have you back. There is so much that came out of this conversation.
I know. It just scratched the surface.
You brought out information that we wanted to talk about, and you were able to bring it out into the conclusion of this whole deal with the forgiveness and all of that. And we just thank y'all. We thank our audience members, and we can asking you to, forgive today.
Thank you so much for taking
your
time.
situation and your experiences, and reach out to somebody. So thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you in about 10, 11, 12, 13 minutes.
Yeah, but you guys hang around just for a second after the credits. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of the Real and Raw Talk Show with Nakia Franklin and Vawn, Gretta. Remember to like and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe to our YouTube channel today. A special thanks to our guests, sponsors, and audience members. We are grateful for your support of our programming. If you would like to be a guest or sponsor of one of our shows, please email us at info.realrawtalkshow@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. This has been a Wisdom Entertainment production in association with Social Integration. The views and opinions expressed on the show do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Real and Raw Talk Show with Nakia Franklin and Vawn, Gretta. Any content provided are opinions and do not intend to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, individual, or anyone or anything. Stay connected and join us for our next conversation where there are no boundaries and no judgments.